send positive vibes out across the community for a month.
Right.
It's changed a lot. It's very interesting how it was originally where it is now.
You don't just show up when you're put your hat out.
Yeah. We'll go find a potato salad guy.
That ruined it for everybody.
Doesn't work.
Okay, I guess maybe we can start then. Thanks everyone for coming to this panel, crowdfunding your game discussion panel with successful game creators. We have a lovely panel of guests. Rich Thomas is the owner and creative director of Onyx Path Publishing, and should I just intro you?
Whatever you care to do.
Okay, I'm just gonna read off the paper then. Which works to bring tabletop RPGs to life. Rich and the Onyx Path have run 20 Kickstarter campaigns, which this year included the brand new creator of the game Pugmire, and will also be kickstarting the launch of their own game, Scion 2nd edition later this year. Awesome. Next time is Adam Poots, is a board game designer and miniature maker, and the creator of Kingdom Death. In 2012, he launched a Kickstarter campaign for Kingdom Death Monster, a cooperative nightmare horror tabletop game which raised over $2 million. Demand has remained so high that it was just announced that Kingdom Death Monster will be reprinted again.
Yes.
Right? Congratulations. And next to him is Mark Morrison. He is one of the forces behind Campaign Coins, the original game coin company which makes beautiful and high-quality metal coins for tabletop gaming. In addition to their classy fantasy range, Campaign Coins have made licensed coins and props for the 13th Age called Call to Cthulhu, Fate, Freeport, Pathfinder, and many more. Campaign Coins has launched their newest Kickstarter project for the newest line of coins, Black Metal Electrum Teens. Next to him is Brian Poel. He is the director of operations for the independent game studio Harebrained, the video game developer of Shadowrun Returns, Battletech, and the creator of the Origins award-winning game Poel. He has managed finances, manufacturing, and shipping logistics for multiple Kickstarter campaigns of over 30,000 backers. And last but not least, Ben Dobyns is the co-founder of Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, a fan-supported film company that has raised over $1.3 million on Kickstarter and Patreon. The company releases its project under a Creative Commons license that allows sharing and remixing, says no to ad-supported revenue models, and focuses on building a sustaining community rather than sales. Ben's unique business model is really available for anyone to adopt upon. This is, yeah, it's not thorough enough. Did I miss anything? It's great? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Is it kind of loud, or I don't know, like
Can we get the door maybe?
yeah, maybe the door can shut. So thanks again for coming to this panel. Just quickly, just raise some hands. How many people have launched a crowdfunding project? You? Awesome. What was your project?
So a board game called GenCon Infinity, like 4 years ago.
Awesome, cool. How many people are thinking about launching a project? Okay, cool.
We're in the right place.
And I assume all of you guys have got projects and all that stuff, right? Okay, cool. Great, so this is a perfect panel to be at. So I guess we'll just kind of start with just a few questions that I'll ask, and then I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions yourselves. So we'll try to make enough time for that. So I guess, what crazy person wants to do a crowdfunding project?
For all of us.
Yeah, all of us answer.
What was the beginning of it? What?
Like, what type of, what makes you want to do a crowdfunding project? Yeah, what kind of crazy person?
Our fans sort of pushed me into it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I had a very small business creating resin miniatures, and at the time I was still working full time as a graphic designer and front-end developer in the city. We really sorted our figures, and I saw more money that day than I did all month at my job. I thought, okay, maybe it's time to start doing this full time. And after the success of Homicide, which was like really the first big board game that like hit stretch goals, and it's like kind of like a path to victory. And I was looking at it going like, hey, congratulations, Dallas, it's just it's amazing. And then, day by day I got emails from fans, hey, you should do that too. Like, we'll back you, don't worry, we'll do it. And I guess I started to have to take the opportunity pretty seriously. It took me many months to work out the plans to do the campaign, but initially it was not something I wasn't really doing. Was that the campaign for Monster was actually the second Kickstarter campaign I ran. The first one was just for one single figure, the Forsaker, and that was because a friend of ours was friends with owners of Kickstarter, and I was invited to their very first little like launch party, which was at that point invite only, and they were like, at that point the attitude was like, give it a try, why not? And, I think the person who raised most of the time was someone, a graphic designer who put a pack of vector art icons on. That was it. It was very small. It was maybe 5,000. I was very impressed by it at that time. So we tried it, and at that point, Kickstarter was more like begging your friends for money, and the experience was not that good. I didn't really feel comfortable. Right. No, there was no like market strategy or anything, or community that was comfortable. Basically, giving a stranger their money. So absolutely, it was the fans that pushed me into it. It was my yearning desire to get on Kickstarter.
Well, I'll contrast that
Okay.
because so one of the founders of our company is Jordan Weissman, who's a graybeard of many years and created some very well-loved intellectual properties back in the 80s and 90s, Shadowrun specifically. And he wanted to make a new game, but the powers that be that controlled those IPs were not interested in making some rinky-dink little turn-based storytelling RPG, because companies that large want to make big bets to get big returns on their investments, and it's just not worth their time to make small projects. Well, at that time, this was back in 2004. What was that? No, not 2004. That's way too far ago.
That's 10
Anyway, it was like 4 years ago. Sorry, that's not 4. So 4 years ago. And there were just a couple of projects that had just happened that had break. I think Wasteland had just happened. Side note, we finished after them but shipped before them. So, and he and his partner, they were motivated, like they wanted to make this project, but this opened up the possibility of asking their fans to validate that they wanted this thing. But it was very driven by the love of this, this legacy IP that had just been kind of laid fallow for years, and there was a lot of nostalgia out there for both the paper RPG and several of the classic console games back in like the Nintendo 64, NES eras. And so it was just a really good timing, and they jumped at it. We've had 3 really big Kickstarters, 2 Shadowruns, BattleTech, and the Golem Arcana project was much smaller, but that was their motivation.
Shadowrun versus Golem.
First Shadowrun Returns, then Golem, then Shadowrun Hong Kong, then BattleTech.
Both
And it
cases of these were, both of us already had established fan bases. In my case, minute, but still. I think the takeaway I would get from this is that while Kickstarter can grow a fan base, it's not even a place to try to start. You definitely want to have a core fan audience of whatever it is you're trying to put together before you hit Kickstarter, because they're the ones that are going to help you kind of hopefully validate new people that come in.
That's the same place we came from, and we've been building the gamers fan base for a number of years. And Kickstarter, kind of how we got into it was a little bit different in that we did not want to go to Kickstarter. We did want to crowdfund, and had spent kind of 2 years building a really intentional plan for it. We launched that plan in 2010. I think when Kickstarter was still in beta, we still had to get an invite to participate. And it was with this whole idea of releasing movies for free on the internet under a Creative Commons license, which was really weird back then. And basically saying, hey, if you like it, here's where you can pledge your money in order to keep it going. And so we just had that call to action, and people would just visit our site and give us money. So we released our first episode of our first show under this model, and on day one, we just, the funds are coming in, and the culture that we were working on building around that was you were here to support the movie, and it was kind of a very different kind of piece than the Kickstarter culture, which we resisted for a long time, although fans kept pushing, hey, you should do this, because Kickstarter really transformed the culture from, hey, we're about making this cool movie, to, hey, how many other things can I also get?
Right.
Which really ended up splitting our attention from, now we not only have to deliver a movie, but we have to deliver and create and become manufacturers and
Here's some
module writers and
t-shirts.
t-shirts and keychains, which means less money going into the production budgets. But at the same time, the expectation now had shifted to, well, if you're crowdfunding, what am I going to get in return? Well, you're going to get this movie. Well, no, I know that, but what else am I going to get? And so that's been a real adjustment to that culture shift.
It's gone from a thing where you're helping an artist create something to a full month-long entertainment for whoever's engaged.
Yeah.
What's next? What's that thing? Oh, you revealed that? That's really cool. And kind of a little more of a dog and pony show. So
How do you guys actually plan your campaigns? Like how long does it take you? What goes into it? Like, what's that process like?
I seem to have backed 300 Kickstarters. Some of them are on this table and others aren't. So I think backing, which you guys are already doing. So you just back. You back them for $1. And you back the good ones and you back the train wrecks. And learn the key lessons, which is just tell people what you're doing. And if you're not going to do it, tell them as soon as possible. And keep them on side. Our second Kickstarter, we had some production issues. And I did some refunds, and that's fair enough, but most people were really happy and waited. And I think that's what kept them. How long does it take? Well, I think people really like to see really good key art or a production sample, so there's a tangible thing. So in my case, because we make fake money, that's my business model. I take your real money, I give you fake money, it's awesome. So we go ahead and make the molds, we make the investment, because when the photography's there, people go, I get it. And unfortunately for you guys, that's an investment up front. And I think when Bojan Radokovic was speaking at PAX Australia, he said you should spend 50% of your budget on the cover, which is ludicrous and true. So your key image is so important. I'm all over the shop. It's the jet lag. Planning, I don't know, that's a good question for you guys. Until it's right. I want to have the project ready. I want to know my target. I want to know the stretch goals on the way. And because I'm an Australian and we're kind of sneaky, I don't announce all the stretch goals so that if it's a concertina, right? If it's going well, stretch goals a little further, so I need more money. And if it's not going so well, I got more stuff for you, give me money. So you plan for success and failure. And it
get
takes
your
a long
quotes ahead
time
of
and it's fun.
If you're going to offer things, get quoted. Get things quoted ahead of time so you know what you're talking about. You know what you should be pricing things at. A lot of Kickstarter creators have been bit in the butt just with shipping costs. This will be fine. I'll just, I know how much it costs to send a package. You know how much it costs to pay someone to send a package. You know how much it costs for them to put things in the package.
I don't even want to know what Kingdom Death's shipping.
Oh my gosh.
No,
I didn't mean to bring
come
that up.
on.
Sorry.
There was in its packaging, our game was 22 pounds.
Wow.
That's just the base game. It came out to about 13 inches by 26 inches in its box.
Is that a board game or a murder game?
I think
It's a defense one.
It's a make your postman hit you device. And that was just the base game. And then we had several expansions. Like you pile all these things up at once, and it's just like square footage. Shipping was a lot. I guess we'll get back to it, but I used BackerKit for handling our third wave, which was all the expansions. It was without a doubt so no way I could have done it.
So I would, for planning, there's a few sort of inverse relationships depending on the type of thing that you're doing, but also your history. If you have a track record that you can point to, is this fan base something that you can say, I have done this before? It comes down to trust. Do they believe that if they give you money, they're going to get the thing it is that you're promoting? Our first shadow run, which was very early in Kickstarter days, they pretty much just put some pretty pictures up, showed their faces, and said, you know, you can trust me because I created this game. Boom, that got a lot of trust points. Did they have anything real to show for what the game was going to look like? Did they actually think through game mechanics or the engine, or no, they didn't do any of that. Now, later, other projects we've done since then, the bar has been raised by the general Kickstarter community that you have to show more. Show more, tell less. Not tell, but tell too, but I'm saying you can't just get away with saying. You have to show tangible examples, and the more tangible it is, especially if you're an unknown quantity, you have to show more. If it's a board game, right? You pretty much need to have the board game designed already and ready to manufacture if you're an unknown person. If you're a known person, you could say, well, you look at all these games I've done, it's going to be a new game and it's like chocolate plus peanut butter, trust me. That might be sufficient. You'd probably do better though if you had something to show. And those inverse relationships of how much trust you already have, whether you've got a track record of doing that particular type of thing. Video games are fraught with professionals who haven't made enough games on their own. They maybe worked for another company and made a game, so they can say, I was an artist here or a programmer here, but they weren't responsible for deadlines and saying no to features and all the tough things that have to happen to actually ship something. And you can get over your head. So the more planning you do, the more you know that if I say it's going to ship on this date, I actually have a plan where I can ship on that date. And
I gotta jump in, and then you put 2 or 3 months on that.
Yeah.
And then you ship
Multiply
or
by
6
3,
months.
Yeah.
as you would.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I will say one more thing about the manufacturing side. Especially if the thing that you're selling people is thing you're going to manufacture. I hope you already know the factory you're going to manufacture it with. You have a real quote. If it's the swag area, sometimes like my company makes video games, and we made a whole bunch of crazy swag for BattleTech, which was one of the things that I was responsible for. Never made a flight jacket before, but I had a factory that I trusted, who gave me an initial quote, which wasn't the final quote, but I had trust with them that it was going to be close enough, and I padded it. And there's a trust outwards to your potential backers, but then there's a trust inwards to, can your team deliver? And then also whatever vendors you have to use to get the job done.
And you really have to understand how all of those costs relate to each other as well, how they relate to your reward levels, to your timeline. One of the things we've done over the last 6 years is develop a complete spreadsheet with all the formulas to be able to...
Can I just say, the panel's going off when we're in Microsoft Excel. Yeah? Am I right?
Don't get too crazy.
Well, and the reason I bring this up is I had someone approach me this morning and say, hey, could you help me figure out what to do about Kickstarter? And I was able, in about half an hour, to model the whole campaign for her because all the pieces are here. So if anyone would like a copy of this, I'm more than happy to share the template so you can use it. Just give me your email address and I'll send it to you. And it can save you a whole lot of time and effort when you're trying to work out your money.
To answer the initial question directly, it took about 3 months of just pure planning. That doesn't include the time it took to put the video together that I used. And it also doesn't include the time all the artists spent like sculpting all the figures that were shown during our initial, I guess you call it pitch sheet.
One other aspect of planning, which somebody alluded to, is the pre-selling. So we actually were here at GenCon last year pre-selling our BattleTech Kickstarter. The Kickstarter wasn't actually until October. And we actually took money, we pre-pledged people. Well, it was BattleTech, and there's Jordan Weissman standing there asking for money, so we could do that. But and they had faith because we could look at these other projects. But one of the tricks, especially with like friends and family, or in this case our pre-pledgers, is you want a really strong day one in your Kickstarter. You can't start marketing your Kickstarter when it starts. You start marketing beforehand. And when you talk about part of the planning is you start getting people excited we were 3 months beforehand. Now it's tricky because like the stuff you want to show them is actually probably not ready yet, your splash video or whatever. But you start to let people know. And in this case, the pre-pledgers were part of getting that day one excitement happening. And
Well, they're your prophets. They're your prophets. They're your evangelists.
yes,
Get
that
out there and get
prophets,
more
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That kind of prophet.
And that planning is a really, that's a really important part of, there's an arc to the Kickstarter, and you want to get through those doldrums in the middle before the very end, and part of that is rolling out your stretch goals strategically. Don't make up new stretch goals. Resist that temptation.
No matter
Guilty,
what people
guilty.
tell you.
Oh,
in
no,
the
all of
comment
your,
section.
you can hold them back, like you were saying, hold them back in reserve. And what was that? The comments?
No matter what people say in the comment section, they will
Right.
come up with, I really would love this, and everybody's like, yeah, that'd be so great.
I will say,
I don't even know how to make that.
I will say you can reskin things,
Oh.
but that's
Right.
unique to me.
Especially if it was in your back pocket, they don't know what the skin was before.
Yeah. But I can
Yeah.
take something I've got and change the colour. I'm being facetious and accurate at the same time.
So
But yeah, I like your
I launched the KD campaign on Black Friday because it's like, you know, the craziest time for everyone. And I don't know if that was, you know, successful because again, the climate of Kickstarter has changed a lot since then. The way it used to be was your first day was like your opener, and then you ran pretty consistently, and then your last day was a double. And the way it works now is much more U-shaped.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
typically your first day is your biggest, and then there's a very long, this is just from watching people's campaigns, I haven't personally had one since. It's a very long middle part, and if you manage to sustain that and keep some enthusiasm, the end will sometimes match what you started with.
I don't know when did they start the reminder feature in Kickstarter where people will go
48
hours.
No, when did that feature get introduced?
Right.
Because that 48-hour effect
It's
is
always-
driven
it's-
by
Oh,
that
interesting. I didn't
remind me.
realize.
It's been a couple years now.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least halfway through the stuff we've been doing.
Yeah.
It's driven by the remind me, and it's driven in some cases by the panic that either you'll miss out or that the campaign won't succeed.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, so the part of talk about planning, the art of deciding what your threshold is for backing at all. Oh, this is a tough one because sadly there's a bandwagon effect of people want to back winners.
Right.
And so until it's actually already backed, there's this reserve of people that won't back. Like, just back and then it will be, this is catch-22. But you also don't want to set it so low that you're then committed to doing something that you didn't raise enough money for.
To me, there's a strange honesty factor in there. Where you look at something and you're like, they don't need $10,000. $10,000 wouldn't even get close to what they need.
Yeah.
Or see, I've
And they're like,
seen it a
we
few times
smashed
in
our
computer games.
goal. We're
I
now
know.
6,000% funded. It's like, what?
So our last two Kickstarters, we kind of cheated isn't the right word. We subverted the that's a horrible word too.
I think you're gonna win on this.
We presented it not as a binary this won't happen question. We put forward in the pitch, it's like we're gonna do this project. We're committed to funding this level of a game. If you want more, then basically it was lots of stretch goals about making more of the game than people would want. And that's, a way to keep the bar artificially low, but still low enough that's like, we're still gonna do it, but it's gonna be half of what you want.
We've kind of done the same thing almost from the beginning with, we're going to make this book. It's just not going to be a deluxe version.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get the deluxe, when we did the first one, to go all the way back to the question that was, we didn't know that there would be enough people who wanted to get a deluxe version of one of these vampire books. We just didn't, and then we did it, and hey, well, good. Now we have an audience to speak to. We just keep talking to the folks as we go along.
So that trick might not be in everybody's kit bag to say, I'm gonna do this no matter what, and set a really low goal. And absurdly low goals, I think, are just insulting. Like a $5 goal, or even a $10,000. If it's a video game, you can't make a video game for $100,000. You just can't. So better, I'd say, if the reality is that you do need X to do the thing, then be honest and say you need X. And
Exactly.
they respect that.
There's also a tricksy part of the middle, that when you fund, your stretch goals start to have a rhythm to them, and that creates an expectation. Oh, another amount, I'm going to get another thing. And they get cranky if that's not momentum. Unless you're transparent and honest and say, look, this is what I plan to do, and it's fantastic when you're going to do it. We're stopping here, I'm going to get it finished on time. So, yeah, as always, too long. But yeah, that happened to me. I set my goal too low, because I've done all the work and I want the money, so I can sell fake money. And then I ended up, I think I almost lost money on that one because
The momentum, just
the addition
well,
of stretch
came in
goals.
so low, and I didn't really think about the stretch goals. I thought about them, but then we had some production issues, and yeah, we just.
And you're doing physical things, which is something I remind our guys about with stretch goals, which is most of our pledges are for a physical book. So if our money's coming in for the stretch goals, we have to actually manufacture those things. So that when you see $10,000 stretch goal, that $10,000 isn't free money. It's just not something we can just throw in the air. and do things with. It's mostly eaten up by the cost of making and shipping those books people pledge for to get to that 10,000. So similar thing with the coins, I would imagine. Is,
Actually, kind of being filled. No, I don't think I lost money, but I definitely spent more money than I needed to.
Were there other things that you, during the campaign, that you didn't anticipate happening, that just like surprises along the way that could have
Well, I don't think too much. But you know, we've been doing this since 2007. We're the first people to make gaming coins, and we were desperate for it to reach Australia, Kickstarter, and we were just about to kind of move to a post box in Delaware, so we could pretend to be Americans. And you got Donald Trump now, so I'm glad that didn't happen. We thought this is a dollar, right? And then for whatever reason, this project was the one where we had some manufacturing problems. You know, we changed our antique silver and it couldn't do it. So even when you know what you're doing, you can forget what you're doing. But we fixed it.
and you're transparent about it.
All the way. The minute you know you got a problem, because I've backed so many Kickstarters, and you know you don't want to go septic. Yeah. Like if you come right out and messed up, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna give you free stuff. Like as soon as you know there's a problem and it's ever a problem, you tell them what you're gonna do and then you do the thing you said.
Or be prepared to cancel the campaign before it comes.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
I had to do that once because I discovered that I'll say this here, that some of the people we partnered with, we got a week into the campaign, it became very clear that they would be unable to deliver what they promised.
Yeah.
And it just became a smarter business move to say, you know what, we're going to shut this down. Thank you all so much. This project isn't happening before we take people's money.
Well, that gives you the opportunity to open it again when you've addressed that problem.
And you know, thankfully the community seems to embrace people who understand that they're not going to make it or for whatever reason cannot cancel, and then they relaunch later. I've seen some of those campaigns double or triple what they're projecting normal. You know, Americans generally, the consumers here, are pretty forgiving, surprisingly, as long as it makes sense. When we feel wrong, it's when it's
We'll often have one or two people who are vocally angry about everything.
Oh, of course. I mean, you need those in there.
And
I've never met a penny backers like that.
One feature that I wish Kickstarter had would be a way to actually fire a backer.
Yes.
Just
That's
give
amazing.
them their money back and say, look,
Well,
clearly
please.
I can't make you happy here.
I'm going through that right now with a strong Gamergate supporter who didn't realize that we wouldn't be a safe place for him.
That's challenging.
Yeah.
So one thing, talking about surprises, the amount of time that someone on your team needs to dedicate to managing the community of and I'm not talking just, I mean, during the Kickstarter, it's all hands on deck for the whole time. But the actual community management tools in there, that one long thread of comments is not great. It's not conducive to actual like forum conversations. So we learned, you know, early on, and we've gotten better over time, of sort of moving people, transitioning them over from the Kickstarter platform to a community that has more traditional community management tools. And in general, you've got the entire arc of your development, you need to keep them informed in a way that's appropriate to the milestones that are for your project. If they've done it before, like you've done a lot of different points projects, I imagine you have a lot of repeat people that kind of know what the rhythm is. And maybe you don't have like 2 years of video game development kind of thing.
I actually make video games for 20 years, so
Okay.
yeah, I know your pain.
But the comparison. So you gotta feed the dragon, or the dragon gets unhappy. And so that figuring out that rhythm of they're ready for a new update. What do we have to say that's meaningful? And I believe they don't like to be peppered with stupid updates. Don't hit them with an update every week that has nothing meaningful to say. If there's an update about the manufacturing of swag rewards, give them an update. There's an update about some design decision that's been made, or you've got a new figure. Like, I bet you could have a pretty steady rhythm of this new figure's been finalized, and really keep people, because they want to know the worst thing you could ever do is go radio silent. Those people, because there's legit bad characters out there that run, take the money and run, and you either go radio silent, which is just anything bad could be happening, or sadly, you might send out a bunch of updates that are not true. Just shake your fist against people because they make it hard for the rest of us. Send out real updates, pictures of real people. Cycle through different roles in the team. Here's an engineer telling about what he's up to. Here's an artist. Here's pictures of Brian in China. These are things that make it real, and they want to be engaged with you. Right? That's part of the experience of being a backer, is kind of feeling like you're a fly on the wall in the project. And that whole thing is somebody's full-time job, or at least most of their, is just understanding it, living in it, popping on those, responses. You just don't know when someone's gonna be worried about something. Need to, even with an awesome tool like BackerKit, where people can update their addresses if they've moved, you need to keep pointing them back to this awesome tool, and you win so many points being just on top of things and attentive. But that's a person. That is a person who's got their head in the game.
And we don't really have the staff to have one person on top of that. But what we do have is a really engaged fan base, and kind of how they innovated to solve this for us. They created a fan Slack channel for us, and so they basically, I think there are a couple hundred people, fans on it now. They've self-organized. They tag me or other team members when there's a question that I have to answer, and then I get a notification. They monitor all the comments that come in on Kickstarter and have a record of the answer, so they can just put it down.
Wow. All right. Or do it that way.
Yeah. So, but the point is, don't be afraid to use. I mean, crowdfunding isn't just about the money people give you. Your crowd is also intelligent, and they have ideas that you will never think of. And if you can empower them to share those and to act on them, that can bring so much more focus to what you're doing.
I forget who spoke in Australia. I don't know if they do the new Kickstarter have panels that you can go to. Have you guys been to some of these things where they do roadshows? Okay, well, right, you can tell them to do so. But they came down to Australia when they launched. It was awesome. And they reiterate, I've never forgotten it, that Kickstarter is really 3 things. And one is, I'm going to make a thing. And everyone goes, I like that thing, make that thing. Right? But second is, here's how to make a thing. And they go, that's very interesting. I did not know how to make that thing. I like you, and I've learned how to make things. And the third is a community. Like, we came together, we made a thing. And it's so fun. Have you ever used this expression? Someone says, oh, I'm playing Kingdom Death. The other person says, I kickstarted that. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's mine. I kickstarted that, and you want that.
Ownership.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
It's an emotional investment, and what I always tell our team when I'm onboarding people is, when people give us money, that's not the most important thing we have. The most important thing is that they made an emotional investment in your success, and the money is just a token of that. And once you treat it that way, it really allows you to respect how much how much of that they're bringing to the table and how much they want to see you succeed.
Yeah, I've loved. This was a piece from BattleTech that just got delivered to people's homes in this last month, and I loved seeing people walk by, come up to our booth, and we both just kind of do this, you know.
That's cool.
It feels great, and they're all walking around. They do that, you know. You can just see. I expect they probably do is walk around GenCon doing this to each other. They're like, you know, just wearing that is I back this. You did too.
It's part of
Good
a
job.
brotherhood, a secret society that engaged on that. It's great.
Biggest surprise to me during the campaign was how insanely political I had to become. You know, as just a creator, essentially a basement dweller working on things all alone, very happy. Suddenly this new community felt like they had access to me, wanted me to answer things constantly. And you know, a lot of tough questions would show up, not often on the Kickstarter itself, but on forums outside of it. So it became very important to daily Google what was going on with, you know, the extended run on the last 24 hours, and go to conversations that might seem like they're spiraling out of control. And you know, this is where the real surprise came in was I didn't realize that I had a politician inside me. I did, and I immediately recognized, and I don't know if this is the same experience other people have, is that I had to be strong, I had to be decisive, I could never apologize, and I could only answer things with facts. And it's like a very strange thing to suddenly just be looking at a forum that's spiraling out of control and go, wow, okay. So I had to just, again, deliver those things. Always speak in facts. If there's something you're not comfortable saying, don't say it, or say, I'm not comfortable saying this next time. You have to be strong. Never apologize. If someone's insulting you or slandering what you do, say, I respect your opinion, but this is not appropriate here. You have to respect everyone else on this community. And it's difficult and very strange, and it's not how you normally communicate with your friends, it's not even how you normally communicate online, but you have like, you know, the success of your campaign attached to it.
And the internet.
Yeah, and what the internet will go and do, and like, as soon as you see the things that you're saying and the answers you're giving to people being reposted all over the place, and then how people are interpreting what you say, you realize like, I have to be very careful about what I say here. And then, as the campaign, once I was in the update one, I found that I had become too stale. So I'd write an update, and then I'd go back through it and re-add more of my personality too. So that by the time I got to the end of each long, because I did very, very big long updates. Once a month, I just dump everything that was going on. I get to the end of it, and I purposely start having more typos as I got more animated, so I made sure that every update ended with just my very real and raw excitement. I have to sit down and get in that mind frame and remind myself that I'm still excited about making this despite all the challenges. And we had a lot of delays, a lot of like really big things that were difficult to explain to people. I guess the last piece of advice that came from that experience is just, if you're the creator and you're the center point that everyone is, you know, perceiving that they're dealing with, everything is your fault. It's all your responsibility. You have to take it all in on yourself. As soon as you begin, like, even if it's true, like, you know, the film company we worked with, which is no longer in business, completely gaffed. They mixed up people's addresses, sent notifications to the wrong places, and instead of being like, listen, so-and-so from this company totally screwed us, I'm so sorry, I was like, this is my fault. I made a mistake. It doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
I find fascinating though is that, and I recognize this is, you know, this was much earlier that this all, and the momentum goes, right? It's like, if my lead person that needed to make the thing happen was spending as much time, like you became the spokesman, it's hard to undo that.
Yes.
Right?
But
So
at the time, that's what Kickstarter was. It was like, hi, I'm a guy with a project. Now we're okay with faceless companies. We weren't then.
well, I guess I wouldn't go that far.
Well,
find
look at
someone
Lumini
who's
or
not.
right? They don't show any people in their videos anymore. They have like 12 or 13 Kickstarters. It's just like, here's the game. That's it.
I'm totally transitioning out of being the face of Onyx Path on Kickstarter. It's
You
just-
gotta feel good.
because I'm just bringing some people to help. Because now you can with Kickstarter as well. It's like, look at Indiegogo. They have whole teams. Why won't you do that?
All I was gonna say is don't have somebody critical path be that person.
Right.
Find some, and then not to say, I mean, have the person whose personal critical path is the community management. I don't want my engineer spending all his time on the forums. He needs to be programming, you know. And occasionally you'll sort of throw him in there to like answer a very particular question, open him up to, you know, participate briefly, and then chain him back to his desk because he has programming to do. But yeah, and that's a fascinating evolution that I mean I think probably to undo that would have done more damage. You can't introduce a new face after the fact, because once they know who that face is,
I
you want
desperately
to keep
wish
working with
that
face.
I had never introduced myself publicly and just like hired an old white actor. Like, that's the guy right there.
Hello, I'm making my game.
Yeah, like look how crazy he is. You know.
Well, and a good community manager knows how to manage troubled situations, diffuse situations, rally a community of volunteers to help sort of be in all the places and bubble up things that can't be solved more simply. I've done some myself. I know my limitations. I'm not the best community manager, and you know, you do learn some mistakes along the way. Now I mostly kind of chime in when it's my subject matter expertise. So I'll write the update that has to do with the current status of manufacturing, you know, the swag, for instance.
I kind of feel I'm sitting at the grown-ups table because I make 10% or 1% of my colleagues here. If you're not planning to launch a $3 million computer game, it's going to be you. So what you can do to divide your time is just, we covered it. The comments, you just don't let it, you're not going to get many comments. I don't get many comments, right? So don't let a comment go by that seems it needs like an answer without a quick little answer. And if the answer is, I'll do an update next Friday, you know, and I'll address that, well, that's it. You don't have to do the work now. Say when you're going to do it, and then do it.
I got into a rhythm where, say, every morning I'd sit down, I'd read the new comments, and I'd have the notepad open. And anything that seemed like a legitimate question needed to be answered, I would just say, you know, I type out at the person's using an answer, and then I would just post them all in one good chunk. And that was a lot, you know, the rhythm.
And people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they go back and read all that stuff. It's crazy.
Obsessively. Sorry.
Just time checking. We have like about 15 minutes. I want to leave.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's totally cool. I just want to, you know, open it up to the audience and see if anyone has any questions to ask you guys. Great. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, I missed the first few minutes, so sorry for coming in late, but you may have answered this. When it comes to crowdfunding something that you're the only person on like a board game or something or a project, and nowadays on Kickstarter they want like a higher production presentation. No longer can you just get away with your homemade video or, you know, even like, hey, I'll delay it to get these great graphics, but that's why I'm kickstarting. And then nowadays the competition is so much more than that. Like, how do you survive? How do you get that publicity and that support?
Go with your strengths. If you can't produce a really high quality video, then produce a low quality video where you're very honest and you're speaking to them. Yeah, you know. Because I don't even know what the percentage are of people who watch the videos. I mean, I know a lot of people put a lot of effort into making a major sort of thing, and those could be really fun to watch. But I don't know how many people actually are watching them. But if someone is speaking to you, who's great, I think you guys might have done one of those too, real early, like we mentioned.
Oh, we always throw mention Jordan up there.
Yeah.
Adam Costello.
Exactly, and so it's now you're getting to know these people, and that I think is the strength. You can't get the high production rates. Now for the prototype, try to get it as tight as you can, as cool as you can. And again, so I can get it. This is how far I can get it now. But this is what I could do if this Kickstarter works out. And say, all right, if I would do this, I would do this, I would do this. And,
I do think your key image that comes up, that's where you spend all the effort and pay money or get your talented friend. Because I have my Kickstarter set to tabletop new. I look at everything, and a lot of time I just keep on going. Maybe it's a good game, but if you got bad out there, you're gone. So as long as you've got good out there, then send it.
Would you guys recommend, or do any of you guys offer post-mortem kind of analyses of active or finished Kickstarters? Because we have one going on right honestly our first rodeo, and I'm hoping to continue producing moving forward. So people like that kind of feedback.
I think after the panel, I'll hang out. I'm happy to answer a little bit more in depth. I'll make sure if anyone else has any questions, we get to them. Because that sounds like I could talk forever about this.
You gotta get out
All
of
of
the
us
system.
do. I mean, you notice how much you all can talk at this point?
What makes a good stretch goal?
A good what?
Stretch goal.
I'm a huge fan. Obviously, it depends. Depends on how you can integrate it into the product.
What do you mean by good? Good for the creator?
Effective?
Or like, the perfect mixture of something that's very easy, that's a crowd pleaser?
I guess a little bit of everything. I just know they exist, and I don't
So,
really know how to
are you
attack
planning
them.
on maybe kickstarting a board game in the future?
Yes.
Okay, so a good stretch goal is we're going to give you great core parts, because most manufacturers are going to have a great core part anyway, and it's one of those things that to most people sounds impressive, and it is. It's a nice card stock if you've ever just something with no core, but it's very cheap in comparison. So that's like a good one. Upgrading the components to be what you're planning on them to be anyway is a nice stretch goal, because it's easy and it's something that people readily want.
A really high-priced one that would be limited quantity. If you have artwork in the game that is people's faces, people will pay to be in your game.
I cannot recommend against that more.
Well, I don't know about your miniatures, but
We had
Because he's got to make it look like it.
okay, miniature queen. Go ahead. Now I want to hear why, because it worked out great for us, but it was very organically appropriate for the
We
game.
had a 10 grand, we will make a survivor in your likeness. I had one person emailing me about it, and he was clearly a little too exuberant for me at the time.
Yeah.
So I immediately got rid of that. He saw that I got rid of it and went for the 3 grand to make a survivor head after that. And it was very hard to please this guy. It was fair because he gave us $3,000. He just wanted like a small head in his likeness. And it ended up being so much work. So much people discussing it at the office, just like, "Why the fuck are we doing this? Give me this money back." I'm like, "No, come on, let's do the spirit things. We're gonna do it." But
So ours, so it was these RPGs that had portraits for NPCs. So we had a pipeline of faces that needed to be made anyway, and as was appropriate for that style, we'd often riff off of a photo of a real person and then twist it so it didn't look like the celebrity or whatever, right? But using a real person's picture actually ended up lending an odd authenticity because they all look like regular people instead of models.
The kind of people who would pay to have the pictures inside.
Yeah, the only problem with that was that this cosmopolitan city of the future looked really white old dudes.
You absolutely have to watch out for that.
Yeah, so there's like, do you mind if we change you a different
race?
ethnicity? Like, that's a really weird question to ask.
You guys
Or
can
please,
slap some pointy
can you
ears
give
on
me a
them.
picture of your wife instead of you? Or your children? Yeah, so, but it was very effective money-wise, but it was part of our pipeline. It was part of the plan.
Right.
So,
No, I mean, for this individual to get us anything to start with, it was hard.
It's one of the things, is it intrusive to your process, or is it something that naturally fits and won't hurt you?
But
Don't do stretch goals.
That's not a stretch goal. That's more like a reward too, right? It's like an add-on.
oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's not really. Sometimes you do a stretch goal, you end up opening a reward tier. You're right. That is really a reward tier. My bad.
Good advice.
Add-ons are dangerous.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
We had to pick and pack 70 different items. So our office turned into a warehouse, just bins everywhere. We spent the entire summer, no joke, everybody just taking a sheet and going up and down, picking the packages.
Same thing happened to us on the Gamers 3 Kickstarter. It looked like we weren't going to succeed. They were begging for add-ons. We finally agreed to do it, and then it took way more time because every single order out of thousands was completely unique.
I will highlight something just to put BackerKit front and center.
Yes.
Is that managing add-ons and managing people choosing, like, you can have a reward tier that's a choice of multiple things instead of just one thing. And BackerKit makes it so easy for after the fact, when people get invited to BackerKit, they get to lays out all of the variants of what t-shirt size or what faction somebody wants, and you can also have additional add-ons parallel to the reward tier. Would be like, oh, and would you like, you got one t-shirt, would you like more t-shirts? Ding, 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 ding. And you can, if you plan ahead for it, have an entirely second wave of fundraising from people adding those things on.
And it can add a lot of money.
Packing them in your own office will be a nightmare. But there are other services.
Fulfillment services.
Yes, there are fulfillment services that will do that for you as long as you plan ahead for the costs.
Well, we touched on that. You want to have those guys chosen before you finish, and you want to know the weight of what you're going to shoot.
I wouldn't actually do BackerKit for like 18 weeks. No, who are these people? I worked hard for this funding. Why would I give them any of it? I'm just gonna use Kickstarter stuff. Damn it, it's free.
Oh.
And no, after I did my first one, I was like, why did I say that? Why was I so stupid for 2 years? This is so good.
My first Kickstarter was 36,000 backers on spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
So the second one
Kickstarter
was
does not help you
BackerKit.
with that one bit. I mean, it's such a cumbersome setup.
And so you're gonna have a moment where, I mean, BackerKit is a super kind of dense service, absolutely responsive. You have a question, you get a personal email. I don't want to get you in trouble, but I've actually written features from BackerKit. I haven't written them. I've said, you're gonna did this. And next week, Tom's, it does that now.
They do that for me too.
Yeah, how good is that?
Same here. I bet I've used your feature.
And vice versa. High fives. Yeah, you can think.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a fee up front, and you may think, I can do it myself, right?
Don't
Don't.
think that.
Make
Factor
your
that into
game.
your budget,
Make your thing.
because then you can keep funding after your project closes. You can keep caping money, and you will make 10%. It's mathematical.
It'll
You
get
make
covered.
10% or more of what you funded at.
Yep.
You collect it in BackerKit, and you get your postage back. So if anybody does a project without BackerKit, you're dead to us.
Well, thank you guys.
No, we spent
I don't know if we should go.
we spent we spent 2 years writing our own software to try to do what BackerKit does, and it was completely wasted effort.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that on the first one.
Right.
Are
Gross.
there any other questions before we continue to kind of collab? And a good stretch goal is one you've planned for, and that you know is something that can go into the main thing you plan on delivering. Because the fewer add-ons you have, the less complications you have.
Don't do t-shirts.
Don't do t-shirts.
So pros and cons of opening up reward tiers after you've started your Kickstarter? Is that a good idea, bad idea?
I find it a lot of times it adds a lot of excitement, and it shows you're being responsive to what's going on. So it's not just a static thing. It depends on how many reward tiers you're dealing with.
I desperately wanted to add a tier that just combined everything with so many people. It would have made it a little bit more simple.
It's just, it's very tricky to balance. Because you can't edit the existing reward tiers, it has to be part of the plan, because you can inadvertently devalue a different reward tier by inserting a new one, and that's just bad. You're gonna, it's a very painful process to then manage a bunch of
If your reward tiers are one of those where it's like all this thing above this, and this thing, and then you jam one in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oops.
Yep.
Oh, no, we did get that now too. Oh yeah.
Opening day, which is Black Friday for me, I added like 100 Black Friday things, and they went. So I added another 100, and they went. I added another 100, and they went. So that was, I increased the price a little bit.
Yep. Now the guys who got in first about it.
Yeah, look at people arguing over what opened up.
And that's a great way to get people to pledge quickly instead of just thinking about
I
it.
was just trying to be nice at the time. early bird stuff is like almost part of the strategy now. You always see like early bird.
I've seen that.
I was just going to ask about early bird stuff because I've also heard there's some pushback against that because people are angry that
So lead in.
you're selling the thing for $10, but to these guys it's $7. And,
So where were you? You should have been there early.
Did it cost you $10 to make or $7? So that's
Well, I think it's worth it because having momentum
So
at
you guys
the
are still
beginning
all liking,
is valuable.
not liking early birds and forward nodding.
I've never done it, but it's not.
I'm trying to think if we've done it.
I would probably.
I just
do it.
as a
If I
consumer,
had
I'm
another
not
campaign,
offended.
I'd probably do similar. Day one special, especially because we have a fan base and they all would feel validated.
but at the same time, with the fan base, I'm basically just saying, all you guys are gonna probably do this anyway, get a discount, and you guys are like,
And then they'll do it on the next one. Then they'll be there first.
I've also seen companies do things like if you pledge within the first 48 hours, we'll also, at this level or higher, we'll also throw in this copy of our older thing. Just as a way to kind of increase value.
So what are some ways that you can kind of get your product out there? I know you go to conventions, have people review it.
What?
Go to your local.
What type of thing?
Board game store.
Board game.
So what are some ways that you can get your board game out there? Other unique ways
You're
that.
talking to people in forums, board game forums, board game sites. You know, use the social media of your thing to start talking about. And the other thing though is don't just show up on a forum you've never been on before and go, look what we're doing. But engage with it for a little while and maybe start to throw some questions. We're thinking about doing a Kickstarter. What would you guys,
yeah, you could do limited runs of some of the art prints that you plan on including the game itself in a very small store or through Etsy, just to get people used to the idea of paying you for things, because then you'll have fans who are comfortable with the idea.
And have something amazing. You may have to go through 3 or 4 or 5 ideas at least that people just don't resonate before you find something that people say this must exist. And the more that you can create that demand before you start, do the work and find out what people actually want and be prepared to take your golden idea, throw it out, and try 7 more.
I just want to say I really like Twitter. I get to follow people that I kind of like and admire, and I become a friend and a community, and then someone's kind of got your back and they get interested. So I think that's a good. I just enjoy it, and it seems like it's a way to be part of something like that.
So one thing that I think your comment you made about going to conventions, there are conventions. Some of them have. I think GenCon does, although I haven't been at my booth to do this. Is that that's what they call it? It's opportunity for you to.
Unfortunately, a lottery game.
But there's also a first exposure playtest. Get out there and go.
That was at a con in Portland where they had a whole infrastructure for people to be playtesting games that were still in development. And that serves multiple purposes. One is you need strangers to test your game to whether it's really ready, and you're creating these profits who will proselytize for when your Kickstarter is up. Another challenge of getting the word out is that middle trough in the Kickstarter path. Now we started on I guess it was just in our most recent one. We had basically a second parallel set of stretch goals that were all social media stretch goals, and they weren't sort of at the same level of game impacting stretch goals, but all had to do how many total likes do we have on the Facebook page? How many retweets do we have of this? How many shares of this post? And so we had these challenges that went out to the existing Kickstarters that if they go and start trying to spread the word about this project, we'd keep track of these little tick marks, and then we'd open up some smaller but kind of fun reward. Because getting the people who've already backed to then share with their friends beyond just the right after Kickstarter share can get you through that hump in the middle of the Kickstarter.
Although you do get to have a nap during the hump. The hump is not all bad. You really need a break because it starts hard and ending. So there's a week in the middle I go, everything quiet. Phew.
Well, I think our time is up, but thanks for everyone for showing up, and thank you for a lovely panel for dropping some knowledge, and also I guess if anyone has any questions. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Rosanna. I'm one of the co-founders of BackerKit. I forgot to actually introduce myself. As you guys heard, we're crowdfunding logistics software. So I think maybe a few of us are going to stick around if you have any questions. You can also find us at the first enclosure playtest hall near the ticketing booth area. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, we're happy to answer anything. And also you can sign up for a mailing list if you can't meet now but want to chat later. We have Anna and Sean in the back. They're waiting. They have the cool GenCon shirts. So yeah, just hit us up or after the.
Yeah.
But yeah. So thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.